Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome everybody for today's session on the 5th canto, chapter 12, text 9. So those of you, I'm sure most of you are regulars for this program. We are going backwards. Last week, the last class for the year 2023 was on 5th canto, chapter 12, text 12. So because because of this marathon, book marathon, there's been a little discrepancy in the sequence of how this chapter has been discussed. So we are now discussing today text 9. Evam niruktam shruti shabdavrittam asan nidanat paramanavo ye avidya manasa kalpitaste yesham samuhena krito vishesha Evam niruktam shruti shabdavrittam asan nidanat paramano vaye avidyaya manasa kalpitaste yesham samuhena krito vishesha Evam niruktam shruti shabdavrittam asan nidanat paramanavo ye avidyaya manasa kalpitaste yesham samuhena krito vishesha. Anybody?
Evam niruktam chiti shabda vrittam asannidhanat paramanavo ye avidyaya manasa kalpitaste yesham samuhena krito vishesha
Evam niruktam chiti shabdavrittam asannidhanat paramanavo ye avidyaya manasa kalpitaste yesham samuhena krito vishesha Evam niruktam chiti shabdavrittam asannidhanat paramano ye avidyaya manasa kalpitaste yesham samuhena krito vishesha
Evam niruktam shruti shabdavrittam asan nidanat paramanavo ye avidyaya manasa kalpitaste yesham samuhena krito vishesha.
Evam niruktam chiti shabdavrittam asannidhanat paramanavo ye avidyaya manasa kalpitaste yesham samuhena krito vishesha
Yesham samuhena krito vishesha
निरुक्तं क्षितिशब्दवृत्तम्
एवं निवृत्तं क्षितिशब्दवृत्तम्
असान्निधानात् परमाणवो ये
असन्निधानात् परमाणवो ये
अविद्यया मनसा कल्पितास्ते
अविद्यया मनसा कल्पितास्ते
येषां समूहेन कृतो विशेषः
येषां समूहेन कृतो विशेषः
Evam, thus,
Thus,
niruktam,
Niruktam,
falsely described,
falsely described,
Shiti Shabda,
Shiti Shabda,
of the word earth,
of the word earth,
Vritam,
Vritam,
the existence,
the existence,
Asat,
Asat,
not real,
not real,
Nidanat,
Nidana,
from the dissolution,
from the dissolution,
Parma Anava,
Paramanava,
atomic particles,
atomic particles,
Ye,
Ye,
all of which, Avidyaya,
Avidya,
because of less intelligence,
because of less intelligence,
Manasa,
Manasa,
in the mind,
in the mind,
Kalpita,
Kalpita,
imagined,
imagined,
Te,
Te,
they,
Te,
Yesham,
Yesham,
of which, Samuhena,
Samuhena,
by the aggregate,
by the aggregate,
Kritaha,
Kritaha,
made,
made,
Vishesha,
Vishesha,
the particulars.
the particulars.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Please repeat after me. One may say
One may say
that varieties
that varieties
arise from the planet Earth itself.
from the planet Earth itself.
However,
However,
although the universe may temporarily appear
may temporarily appear
to be the truth,
to be the truth,
it ultimately
it ultimately
has no real existence.
has no real existence.
The Earth was originally created by a combination of atomic particles. But these particles are impermanent. Actually, the atom is not the cause of the universe. Although some philosophers think so. It is not a fact that the varieties found in this material world simply result from atomic juxtaposition or combination. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, please hear. Those who follow the atomic theory think that the protons and electrons of atoms combine in such a way as to bring all material existence into being. However, the scientists fail to discover the cause of atomic existence itself. Under these circumstances, we cannot accept that the atom is the cause of the universe. Such theories are advanced by unintelligent people. According to real intelligence, the real cause of the cosmic manifestation is the Supreme Lord. Janmadyasya yataha. He is the original cause of all creation. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 10.8, Aham sarvasya prabhu matta sarvam pravartate. Krishna is the original cause. Sarva karna karanam. He is the cause of all causes. Krishna is the cause of atoms, the material energy. Bhumir apo nalo vayu kam mano buddhir evacha ahankar ityam me binna prakatir astaha. The ultimate cause is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and only those in ignorance try to find out other causes by posing different theories. So thank you very much for inviting me to be back here. I think I have a very deep connection with this center for some reason. I would like to first of all start. Yugal Krishna Prabhu was very kind to say that I don't know about my wife, I think she has very good deep realizations, I'm sure. But I am not a person with very deep realizations, as he says. He's only been very kind to me. One thing in Krishna consciousness I have learned over the last 30 years is it's something that my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Maharishi Goswami, actually mentioned in a class in Florida. And you need a little louder? Hare Krishna? Okay, sorry. Yeah, my voice is soft as it is. So anyway, is it okay now? Everybody? Okay. So, His Holiness Mahavishnu Maharaj actually said a story when he was in Florida, and the editor of Back to Godhead magazine, he printed it to say there is humor in Krishna consciousness also. Usually in Krishna consciousness, we think it has to be a very serious thing. Everybody, if you're giving a class, don't smile. You're deep in realization, so you should smile. But the deeper your realization, the more you smile. Because why do you smile more? Because you realize you don't know anything. So then when people say that, oh, he's got deep realization, I was smiling internally, I couldn't smile out externally. I said, man, he's putting me on a problematic situation. So what happens is, in Krishna consciousness, the interesting thing is that the story is very fascinating. I really like the story. It's so one day what happened is there was a lawyer, an attorney. He was sitting at his table. He had a phone. He had two phones. No clients. He had two phones but no clients, no customers, nothing. So what happened is, he saw somebody coming. He said, okay, this person is coming, Bakra mil gaya. So he says, okay. So then he picks up his phone to pretend he's a very important man. You're understanding, correct? Good. Because you're the most important person. You are the first person chanted Bhagavatam, so I have to make sure you understand. If you understand, I don't care if others understand or not. So you listen to the story very carefully, okay? So what happened is, so this lawyer had no customers. So he was sitting with two phones and all that, and so he said, oh, this person is coming, some Bakra mil gaya. I have to impress him. So he picks up, hello, Clinton, how are you doing? Oh, yes, don't worry, I've got your case taken care of. Tomorrow I'm going to Supreme Court, I'll deal with your case. And then, don't worry. Oh, I think there's another person calling, just a minute. Then it was, I think it's Bush who's calling on the other line. So Clinton, I'll talk to you later, but don't worry, I've got your case, I'll talk to Bush first. And so he puts in two or three names to show that, he's got clients like Clinton, Bush, all these people are his clients. And then in the meantime, with his hands, he shows, please sit down. He's kind of telling the person, sit down. The person sits down. He's very patient, nice man. He's very patient. So he says, this man is listening. He's quoting a few names. So now he thinks, okay, I think I've impressed this man enough. Now I think I can ask him what his problem is, and maybe. So he puts his foot down. He says, sir, I'm sorry, I have to, as you realize, I've got these clients. I have to take care of them. I didn't want to ignore you, but I'm sorry about it. He says, no, that's not it. The man says, no, don't worry. He says, what can I do for you? He says, well, sir, I'm the telephone repair man. I've come to repair your telephone. So all this time, he thought he was impressing him. That fellow was thinking, I'm tolerating you. So that's the point, sir. If I try to impress you, please don't tolerate me. So that I learned my lesson very, very early in life with Maharaj. So he says, Krishna consciousness is one of genuineness. We have to be where we are. We don't have to pretend where we want to be. So I'll try to do some justice to this verse today. And this is an important verse, actually. On one hand, it seems that it has no practical relevance to our lives. But on the other hand, it's the most practical relevance to our lives. I'll try to make the connection and see if we can get through this today. So the first thing is, to understand this verse, we have to go back to understand the past time that's created this verse. All of you probably know the history of King Raghugana and Jadabharat, correct? If anybody doesn't know the history of Jadabharat, just go back to the class last week. Ajay Govinda Prabhu gave a nice class, and he gave the history of Jadabharat and that, about how he was King Bharat and then got attraction for deer, got birth as a deer, and then was reborn. So he gave the details, so you can go back to the class last week. It was very nicely explained. So now what happens is, King Raghugana, as we all know this past time, you would have attended the last few sessions in the last chapter over the last 2 months. But just to recollect the situation that happened, which is, there are a few takeaways in the situation that we can, as devotees and aspiring devotees. The first situation is that King Rahuguna was on the palanquin being carried. One of the carriers was Jadabharat, and King Rahuguna spoke very sarcastically to him without knowing who he was. He spoke, the word sarcastic is very important. He spoke very sarcastic to him, this Jadabharat. But the interesting thing is, Jadabharat completely, it escaped his mind to take any, to give it any value. What Jadabharat did was very interesting. He heard sarcastic statements, and he started agreeing with King Rahuguna. He started agreeing with him, and when he responded to him, he agreed with him and turned his own, King Rahuguna's own statements from a spiritual perspective. He gave a spiritual understanding to what King Rahuguna was saying. Now, King Rahuguna was only speaking from a mode of passion and from an identity with the body. You're speaking from that angle. But Jadabharat was able to see the spiritual value of what he was speaking. This is something interesting for all of us as aspiring devotees and as practicing devotees to take note of. Very important. Today, if you notice, if you pick up any newspaper or pick up any information, there's so much conflict, there's so much, everywhere it's only conflict. Last time when I was here, in Hyderabad, actually I gave a class at the Hyderabad Abbot's Temple, and the topic was actually, it came up, was relationships generally. Now if you notice, most of our relationships in the world, people will naturally have disagreements. Any two living entities cannot agree totally. It's not possible. Krishna has not made that possible. There's always some kind of, I see black, you see white, you see grey, I see yellow. We'll always have that. More so, the most important relationship where this happens is husband and wife. Where husband will see black and wife will see white or whatever. Some of you are not married, don't know the experience, but having been married for 35 years, I'm a past master at it. I know what I'm talking about. So now what happens is, usually, when husband and wife or parent or child are talking, usually what will happen is, one will propose something because they think they're right, and the other will say something else because they think they're right. So in other words, what happens is, when we have a conversation, I think I'm right, you think you're right, and then we fight. That's usually what happens. The reason for that is because both of us are thinking we're right, and we are trying to counteract the other person's arguments. But Jadabharat was very smart. He didn't counteract Rahuguna. He didn't say, oh, what are you talking? You're so stupid. I'm an advanced devotee. You're committing offense to Vaishnava. He didn't go that route. He didn't say, he said you commit anything because you're not intelligent enough to understand the difference between Vaishnava and normal man. You're not intelligent. So he says, you know what, I agree with what you're saying, but what you're saying doesn't make sense. You're speaking like a learned person, but actually it's very foolish statements you're making. And that he goes in that route. So suddenly now, you see that Maharaj Rahuguna is like completely undone, because normally you would have expected some kind of defense mechanism to play out or something. Jadabharat had no defense mechanism because he did not identify with the body. The only time you cannot have a defense mechanism play out is if you don't identify I am the body. That's the only time it can happen. Till then, how much ever you do, at some point the false ego will have to play out. But Jadabharat was truly transcendental. This is something that we can learn from Jadabharat today, that he managed to convert the conversation into a spiritual discussion. Otherwise it could have ended up with an argument. He managed to convert it into a spiritual discussion. That's the first thing he does. The second thing that happens is, because that happened, because Maharaj Rahuguna was defeated in his arguments, without knowing he was defeated, he suddenly realized, man, I'm talking to somebody who is actually not just an ordinary palanquin bearer, he's actually a great devotee. So he jumps off his palanquin and then falls at Jarabhada's feet and says, please enlighten me. Now, King Raghunatha was also a cultured person. He's not just materialistic or something. He's got material attachment, but he was a cultured person. So he knew enough to understand that of all the offenses you can commit in this world, the offense to a devotee is the worst offense. So then he says, he tells Jarabhada, saying, my lord, I'm really sorry, I've really committed an offense against you, but by hearing from you now, I will purify myself and thus overcome the offense. So that's an interesting way to overcome an offense. Offense against devotee is to get guidance from the same devotee that you committed offense against. So that's another interesting thing that he actually operates upon. So this is another interesting point that we get in this pastime. Now, what Jarabhada starts with is he talks about the mind. He tells Raghunatha, yes, it's only in your mind that you are thinking you're the king and I'm the palanquin bearer and these are your servants and you're the king. But today you're the king, tomorrow I could be the king, and then roles will be reversed. So this is all temporary and this is all mental, this is all the thing. This doesn't really exist. There's no king and those things, So now what happens is King Raghunatha is ready. It's like, if you actually plant a garden, you first have to clean all the weeds, make all the soil nice and soft so that you can put the seed. So there's a preparation that's required before you can grow a garden. So he's prepared, Raghunatha, ready to get this next instruction. Now what happens there is very interesting. When King Raghunatha hears this, the statements, he suddenly realizes that all his because he had quoted Shastra before, there's a similar incident. I think it seems to be the journey of every devotee's life, that what happens is we come up with a certain set of arguments or certain set of this thing, thinking that we know Shastra, we know what is right and what's wrong and all that. And when we approach an advanced personality, a personality who's more advanced than us, and we start giving our thoughts, this is what Bhagavad Gita said. I don't know how many times I heard people say, Bhagavad Gita says, then after 5 minutes I asked them, have you read the Bhagavad Gita first of all? And invariably they said no. Then where do they get the information? But they quote Bhagavad Gita very well as though they have read it, they have understood it. So then King Raghunatha says, what, my misconceptions, what I thought was being spoken by the scriptures, that one, you have clarified for me, I'm very grateful to you. So Raghunatha accepts that you have clarified that I had some wrong thinking, what is Bhagavad Gita, what it is saying and all that, but now you've clarified it, thank you so much. In future I might have some more questions, and if that questions come up, I'll ask you. But for now, I have a little difficulty, I have a little problem. You said that fatigue or tiredness is only of the body. And actually speaking, there's no such thing called tiredness. It's only of the body, and it has no reality to it. That's one thing. The second thing you said is that any amount of discussion about this fatigueness or about this bodily situation is a waste of time. It will never get you to the truth. So now the word he uses is, I'm disturbed by these statements. I'm disturbed. That's the word he uses. And it's interesting to think about the word disturbed. Why is King Raghunatha disturbed? Because his whole existence is based on the fact that whatever is happening to the body and mind and intelligence is truth. It's something that I have to do. For example, let's say, if I am not, if I have a heart problem, let's say. If I have a heart problem, the automatic thing is that I have to go consult a doctor, and he'll put me through all these tests, and then I'll tell my friends, and I'll try to get advice from my friends, and they'll say, oh, please don't eat this, please don't do this, please do this exercise. There's a whole amount of discussion that gets generated from one problem of my body, let's say. But any amount of this discussion that I do will not take me to the absolute truth. And what is the absolute truth here? That whether my heart has a problem or not, my heart will not be the cause of my death. My heart will not be the cause of my death. There are people with heart problems who have lived for hundreds of years. They don't die. But somebody else can, just by walking out on the street, can have an accident and die next minute. This happened actually in London. It happened in London when Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj was in the hospital, and I was serving him personally. Tamal Krishna Maharaj actually came and visited him at the hospital. So at that time, Tamal Krishna Maharaj told Mahavishnu Maharaj, he said, Maharaj, Mahavishnu Maharaj was elderly. He was in his 90s, he was 89 at that time, or 88, I think, yeah, he was 88. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj was much younger, in his 60s or whatever. So in the natural course of event, it is expected that he'll pass away first, and then, thing. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj told Mahavishnu Maharaj, he said, Maharaj, when you go up there to Krishna and Loka, please put a recommendation for me and keep one place for me, so that based on your recommendation I can go to Krishna Loka. So please be there. Maharaj said, listen, he said, yes, son. Maharaj used to call everybody son, or sometimes Maharaj, he would call son Maharaj, because everybody was so much younger to him. So he said, yes, Maharaj, you see, the thing is, whoever goes first should keep a place for the other person. Tamal Krishna Maharaj thought it was very funny. He said, yes, Maharaj, if I go first, I'll keep. 1 year later, Tamal Krishna Maharaj passed away in a car accident. Maharaj was still there, and when that happened, and I was sitting with Maharaj in Rajkot, and he said, Purnendu, see, Tamal Krishna Maharaj thought I will leave, but he's not here now anymore. This is the way of life. How much ever we chant, how much ever we read Bhagavatam, we still think there is a tomorrow for us. We are still in that same mood. Tomorrow. This very famous thing came up with when one citizen was coming out of during Pandava's rule. When the citizen was coming out, he was looking very sad. And so Bhima was looking at him and said, what's the problem? Why are you looking so sad? He said, I went to Yudhishthira Maharaj. I wanted some problem solved by him. But he said, come tomorrow. And I don't know, I can't wait till tomorrow. I mean, this is troubling me. I won't be able to sleep all night. I was hoping you would resolve it right now, tonight itself. But it's late at night, but I thought he would resolve it. And he said, no, come tomorrow. And I don't know, I won't be able to sleep because this problem is really troubling me. Bhima said, just hang on, I'll do something. He went inside. Then he asked Yudhishthira, he said, so you think you're God? Yudhishthira said, no. Why are you saying such a thing? I mean, how can you say such a thing? He said, then how do you know you're going to live till tomorrow? You may die in your sleep. You may not wake up. And you told that person to come tomorrow. How do you know you're going to be there tomorrow? Then Yudhishthira Maharaj realized his mistake. Then he called the citizen back. He said, okay, let me solve your problem right away. So Mahavishnu Maharaj would always tell us that anytime you make any statement, you make a promise, if you say, Mataji, I'll see you tomorrow, don't say I'll see you tomorrow. Say, Krishna willing, I'll see you tomorrow. Because there can be a lot of things can go wrong between today and tomorrow. But if Krishna wills, yes. If Krishna doesn't will, oh, Prabhu, I got a backache, I can't come all the way, Prabhu, sorry, I will see day after tomorrow. So you've broken your promise of seeing the person tomorrow. So we can't make promises at all. So this is the situation with King Raghunatha. He's so disturbed by these two things. One is that attachment to the body. I mean, the body's pains and pleasures. He says, how can you call it? It's factual. it's real, but how can you call it just formal? Because the word is used formal, it's just a formality. It says this pain of the body and the pain and pressures of the body is just formality. What do you mean by formality? It's truth, it's actually real, it actually affects our lives, it affects our consciousness. So he's disturbed by that. The second thing he's disturbed by is that discussion on this topic will not get you anywhere closer to the truth. Those two things he's disturbed by. So what Jarabhadra does here, he first starts explaining this concept of our actual position. He doesn't use the word spirit soul directly. He uses this concept that everything is a manifestation or transformation of earth. In other words, we are a combination of these chemicals, these materials, not chemicals, these materials. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. These five materials plus ego and intelligence. Mind, ego and intelligence. They are all Krishna's energy. Separated energies, but they are Krishna's energy. So he first starts with that concept. Now that argument is actually given in the Vedic literature. What we have is, now this is a little technical, so please bear with me and please track me on this. This is important for this verse. What happens here is, in the Vedic concept of study, education as you call it, in Vedic education, there's no concept of science, physics, chemistry, mathematics and all that. That is not considered education. There are two kinds of education: education for earning and education for learning. Education for earning is what we do in schools today: how to get a job, how to get how to run a business, things like that. But none of them teach us who we are, what is our original position. Those things are not discussed in schools. So Vedic Gurukuls would always discuss that as primary problem. That was considered a person was considered educated if he or she knew who am I, what's my destination, where am I, who's the control of everything, and so on and so forth. If such a person knew everything, that person would be considered educated. Not if you knew physics and chemistry and if you knew how to be a thing. That was not considered education. That was just knowledge of this world. So Vedic Brahminical civilization had a high standard of what is called education. So there are 4 degrees of education in Vedic culture or Brahminical culture, and we as devotees have to consider this very carefully. There are 4 degrees of Vedic culture. The first degree of Vedic culture is of Brahminical culture is the stotras, the Veda Samhita. The Veda Samhita is the first thing. I'm sorry I have to go into this a little bit because this verse talks about this a little bit. So it's a little thing, it may not, but I'll tell you the relevance to our lives in a way. It'll come back to our relevance in a daily. So the Veda Samhita, what happens is, in the Veda Samhita, you have these stotras, you have these all these mantras that are chanted in different sacrificial performances, different yagyas. So in other words, this stotras are to be only memorized. You don't need to know the meaning of these mantras. You just have to memorize them so that you can perform a havan properly. You can perform a proper. So therefore, you'll notice a lot of priests, they can recite, or from memory, they can recite very nicely all the mantras for a particular puja. But if I remember when my father passed away, these people were reciting these mantras. Then I asked the puja, do you know the meaning of these? They said, no, we're not. We don't really try to understand. We know this is the glorification of Krishna. So that's what the sages in Naimisharanya were doing. They were performing these big yagyas, and you need people to chant these mantras in correct meter, correct pronunciation and all that. And these people learn that. They learn the meter, they learn the pronunciation, the tune, everything else. And it's only by the perfection, purity of their recitation does the sacrificial ceremonies get the benefit. So that is the first section. So those mantras are from the Rig Veda, Samaveda, Atharveda, and Yajurveda. So these are the 4 Vedas. They comprise about 20,000-30,000 mantras are there, which you're supposed to memorize. Now, what happens is, just as now these are based on these four degrees of education are based on the Varna Ashram system, especially the Varnas. Everybody in the Brahminical culture, the 4 Varnas are discussed very carefully. So the first Varna, namely the Brahmanas, have to memorize these mantras and they have to perform sacrificial ceremonies areas. The second degree of education. The second degree of education is actually what is second degree? I'm trying to remember. Is what do you call it? The mantras for purification ceremonies. Like for example, Griha Pravesha mantras or marriage mantras, stotra, and all these. That's the second degree of education. Now this mantras are required for performing one's samskaras. So we need pujaris like that. We need people who can do car puja. It's not enough to buy a Tesla car. You have to do the puja also for it, by the way. Anybody planning to buy a Tesla car, make sure you do puja. Otherwise in 2 days you may lose your Tesla car. You spend your whole life trying to buy a Tesla car and in 2 days the Tesla car will go. Make sure you do a car puja. So then call one of us who knows how to do car puja, will do car puja for you. So that's very important. So to do these pujas. So that's the second thing that we have to worry about. The third thing we have to worry about. So they do all these samskaras for us. That's a second degree of education. So for the grihasthas, you need those mantras, you need those samskaras and all that to perform to be able to perform our duties. We need the samskaras to be performed. The third degree of education is the Aranyakas. It's the mastery of the Aranyakas. Now the mastery of Aranyakas is the Aranyakas basically talk about renunciation. They talk about renunciation. How to develop renunciation in you. So those are important to master for the Vanapras. Because now you finish your Grihastha Ashram, you're ready to start developing renunciation now. You have to develop renunciation, otherwise it will be problematic. If you still keep interfering in your children's affairs after you have settled them, there'll only be Mahabharata. There'll be no Ramayana, for sure. I can guarantee you that Ramayana won't take place because the children have their own ways. You can only train the children to the level that they are settled. After that, you have to say Mera Picha Chodo. When people do this, they think they are doing Namaskar. Actually, what they are saying is Mera Picha Chodo. Please leave me alone. So you have to understand, the inner meanings of a lot of our activities. When the people do this, actually, is please leave me alone. I mean, enough is enough. So that is another aspect. That's the third aspect. So Aranyakas are for the Vanapras. People are now finished with their material duties, and they are now trying to develop renunciation from the family attachments and all that. And the fourth degree of education is the Upanishads. The Upanishads are for the sannyasis. Now, who are sannyasis? Sannyasis are already considered socially dead people. They have nothing to do with this material world. No money association, no women association, nothing. So therefore, they have already been considered socially dead people. So they have to start preparing themselves to get, just because they're socially dead, doesn't mean that they're ready to be free of birth and death. So the Upanishads are discussed among the sannyasis because they are getting ready to get liberation from the cycle of birth and death. So these 4 education systems are required for the Varnas, for the Ashramas. One is the memorization of the Samhitas to be able to do yajnas. That's for the brahmacharyas because they are pure in their that because the brahmacharya basically means that you have see, when you actually practice brahmacharya, one of the things that happens is your memory power increases very rapidly, especially for men. When they practice brahmacharya, their memory power becomes very strong. So therefore the brahmacharyas are recommended to study these samhitas to be able to do different yagyas. Then the householders need the help of samskaras. They need the help for performing. And then the other persons, the Vanaparas need Aranyakas and the Upanishad. Now if you notice, all these things are required for these 4 orders of life, and they are considered education. So now all these 4 are what is called, all these 4 are called Shruti mantras. Shruti, the Shruti thing. So Shruti Shastra, so they have to be heard. Now in the Chandogya Upanishad it is said that there's another 2, which is Puranas and Itihas. These are considered the 5th Veda, and that is to be remembered. And they remembered why? Because in the same knowledge of the Upanishads and the other knowledge is now explained with examples, is explained with historical situation, it's explained again and again. So now what happens is, it is easier for us to say, oh Prabhu, you know, that devotee did this, he started eating first in Subway, and because he started eating in Subway, he stopped eating prasadam, and because he stopped eating prasadam, he lost his desire to be Krishna conscious. You can see prasadam and Krishna consciousness has a kind of link to it. So that's history, because we are taking somebody's example of how they lost their Krishna consciousness and saying that you be careful, don't do the same mistake. So that is known as the 5th Veda, and this 5th Veda is to be remembered, Smaran. So therefore this Smriti Veda, Smriti Shastra. So the first 4 classes of education are known as Shruti Shastras. The next one is known as Smriti Shastras. There's another group of Shastras known as Nyaya Shastra. In the Nyaya Shastra, what happens is there are 6 schools of philosophy. And the 6 schools of philosophy are very interesting. These 6 schools of philosophy are known as Astic. Astic because they all accept God, but they give a philosophy, they propose something and they come to a certain conclusion, the 6 schools of philosophy. Compared to the Gnostic philosophy, which is the Buddhist and Jain philosophy. The Buddhist and Jain philosophies are considered Gnostic philosophies because they don't accept God. So these are not Gnostic philosophies, these are Astic philosophies. So in the 6 schools of philosophies, we have, the first one is called Nyaya. And these 6 schools of philosophies are called Nyaya Shastras. They're called Nyaya Shastras. The first school of philosophy is called Nyaya. Nyaya means logic and reasoning. I'll just look at, so here what happens is, so the first school of philosophy is logic and reasoning. So here in the Nyaya Shastra, what they do is, in the Nyaya school of philosophy the rules of what is knowledge and what is not knowledge will be defined very clearly. So that if somebody gives you an argument and you don't think it's a right argument, you can say, no, you are stating an argument, but this is not the right argument. Now I had a personal experience of Nyaya philosophy being applied on me. When Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj, he went to a stroke. This was in London again. He had a stroke and he just had come out of hospital, and I was serving him at that time, and his entire left side had got paralyzed. So what was told to him was that he was supposed to do some amount of walking every day to get his legs back and his hands back into action, because his speech had come back, his speech came back, but his legs were a little weak and his hands were not so strong also. So what happened is so I took him to California. We were visiting a family. I took him to America, and we were going to travel around America. But then first stop was California, and we were there with this person. And every day I would take him I would tell him, Maharaj, come on, let's go for a walk, let's go for a walk. So Maharaj was, he would say, that's okay, not today. No, I said, Maharaj, please, please, please. So then I would somehow force him and say, come on, let's go for a walk. So we started going for a walk a little bit. So with a stick, with his walker, he would start walking slowly. Slowly, he left his walker, only a stick. After some time, he was able to even lift his stick, and he was able to stand. I have a picture on my altar, which with his hands up with a stick. The reason I have that picture is because that was when I was called a fool. And I remember that. I want to always remember that I'm always a fool in front of my spiritual master. So what happened interestingly was, I told Maharaj, so when Maharaj lifted his hand and he stood there and he said, hey Purnendu, look at this. I'm able to walk, I'm able to stand without a stick. I said, yes, Maharaj. And like I told you earlier, Maharaj did not really he did not like to be dictated by somebody. He said, I'll do things when I want to. So if I don't want to walk, I'm not walking, don't force me. I said, no, Maharaj, please, please, please. I would So then what happened is, he stood up and he said, wow, I can stand without any support. I said, yes, Maharaj, see. So I said, Maharaj, we should do more walking every day because we are able to now stand. And Maharaj, he said, no, sir, son, it's okay. Let Krishna, Krishna is saying something, let it be. I said, Maharaj, you need to walk, Maharaj, because if you walk, then your body will be strong. And if you are strong, then you can serve Krishna better. I'm trying to preach to Maharaj. So you can serve Krishna better. You need to walk, So Maharaj looked at me, he said, son, first of all, you're saying this body belongs to Krishna. I said, yes, Maharaj, it belongs to Krishna and it's meant to serve Krishna. Okay, if the body belongs to Krishna, why don't you let Krishna handle it? Why are you handling my body? I said, okay. I just scratched my head. I was trying to figure out what did I say wrong right now. Because everything I said from my perspective, whatever I learned in Krishna consciousness, I spoke to him just the same thing. Everything I learned in Krishna consciousness, you have to serve Krishna, you have to make your body strong so that you can serve Krishna. What did I say wrong? He said, son, what you missed out is body belongs to Krishna. Let Krishna do what it wants. If Krishna wants his body to be in a wheelchair, he'll make it be in a wheelchair. If Krishna wants him to get up from the wheelchair and go dance in a kirtan, he'll make that thing. You don't have to come in the way. Let Krishna handle his property. I said, okay. So I said, okay, all right, done. Nyay. He told me, your argument is nice, but it's false. I said, okay, Maharaj, done out plans. That's okay. I'll talk to you next time. Next lifetime, not next lifetime. One lesson a lifetime is enough. So that happened. So Nyay, you can see, is very important. So Nyay sets the rules of how a correct argument has to be made, and Nyay deals with four aspects: the soul, the personality of Godhead, and what else? What was it? I'm trying to remember those four things. I don't study this too much, so actually, do you remember what are the four?
Body and the body.
Body and the physical. Body and I forgot those two. Body, the physical world, the soul, and the personality Godhead. Absolutely true. These are four subject matters that Nyay says is worthy of discussion. So once you understand how to state an argument, how to put it together, then the next stage is Vaisheshika. The Vaisheshika school of philosophy is atomic theory. All of modern science is Vaisheshika, is atomic theory. All of modern science is atomic theory. Now what does Vaisheshika say? Vaisheshika breaks down, says that all these different transformations, all these forms, we have different kinds of bodies here. At the end of the day, we are all ash. That we were born from earth and we'll go back to earth. From dust we came and from dust we go. That is Vaisheshika's philosophy. So it reduces everything to the bare thing that you think you're this body, but actually you're only ash, you're only sand, you're only earth. You came from earth and you'll go back to earth. Now, Vaisheshika philosophy is useful for somebody who is in a certain level of bodily attachment. So that is why you can see here, I went through this program a little bit because I wanted to show you why Jarabhadra chose Vaisheshika philosophy to explain to Rahuguna, King Rahuguna, because he was really attached to his body and his thing and all that. And after explaining that this formality, this pains of the body, he said it's just a formality. So now what he means? He says that what it means is that really speaking, the body is really non-existent. It's only for some time. As long as the spirit soul is there in the body is there. Otherwise the body is just ashes. Now I had an experience of this Vaisheshika philosophy in real life. I try to do this giving you my own personal examples because some of you might connect with what is happening here. So in Vaisheshika philosophy, when I was young, my uncle who was the director of Vikrant Tires, he was actually general manager of IBC Bank, and he was a director of TCS, Vikrant Tires and some TVS company and all. He was a big shot, He was a big director in many companies and all that. And he had a very nice house in Mysore. Now one day what happened is he had some work in Bangalore, so he decided that he'll send his family by train to Mysore, and he said, I'll finish this work with my chartered accountant and I'll come back, I'll take a bus and come. So my aunt and the rest of the family went away to Mysore. And then there was no news. 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the night. Normally if my uncle stays back in Bangalore, he would have called my aunt and said, I'm staying back in Bangalore with this thing. I'll come tomorrow. He would have called, but no calls from him. So my aunt got worried, and I was in Mysore at that time. So my aunt said, there's something wrong here. Then call KRCTC and see if there's any accident or anything. When I called KRCTC, they said, yes, there's one bus that met with an accident in Chenpatna. And one bus met with an accident. I said, I told my aunt. She said, I think I really fear something has gone wrong. She said, why don't you go and see what's happened? I can't go on my own. So I told my aunt, okay, I'll go. So I went to Chenpatna from Mysore. And at the scene of the accident, all the bodies were laid one after next to other. There were 15 people who died in that bus accident. And guess what? They were all laid down on the street. There's no such special. You keep them in a special place. The bodies were taken from the bus and they were on the street. One of the bodies was my uncle's. And the funny thing is, the experience I got from that was life, transforming in a sense. Next to him, my uncle, director of Vikrant Tires, chairman of IDBI Bank, etc., all those qualifications are there. Next to him was a villager who was not even gone to school, unpad, illiterate villager. The villager's family had come to pick up his body. They were crying away, saying, you're the only source of income, now what are we going to do, and all that. I was standing there and thinking, I was so pained with my uncle's death. I was thinking, what are you crying about him? He was only a useless villager. He didn't even go to school. This person has gone to school, he's become chairman of a bank, and what are you talking? He should be treated differently than these people. Why are you putting the body all together? As far as those people were concerned, it's just a body. It didn't matter what you were. You could have been chairman of any bank, but it's a body for you. And I realized, wow, this is where we all end up. As just a body. A villager's body and a chairman's body doesn't make a difference. They were all put together, and you had to give an ID, you had to pick up the body. I picked up the body, brought it back to Mysore for cremation. But that is interesting, Vaisheshika. So that's what he's saying here. That is in the previous verse. He says now I'll come to the next. So in the previous verse, he talks about this body just being dust, nothing. We get so anxious about so many things. I didn't pass my exam. I feel very anxious. Today I didn't get a gold bangle from my husband. Very anxious. So many things we create anxiety for, which at the end of the day, it's only to become dust. At the end of the day, it's only to become dust. So then what happens? Then after that, what happens is Vaisheshika is the second step. So here what he does is, now having stated Vaisheshika example, Now what he does is, in this today's verse, he starts saying, but even though we are from earth, and all that, really speaking, some people might say that there are varieties of earth itself. That means that everything is, the origin is earth and the end is earth. And some philosophers believe that, he says, which is true. But he says that's not true. There's an origin to this earth. Earth is not the be-all of end of everything. There's an origin to earth. Who's the origin? What's the origin to earth? Aham sarvasya prabhavo mathar sarvam pravartate iti matva bhujantama buddhabhara samanata. So it is, I am the source of everything. Krishna is the source of the earth. So don't make the mistake, just because I told you that you're made of earth and you'll go back to earth, so earth is everything. So don't start doing Bhumi Puja all the time. He said, stop doing Bhumi Puja. He said, Krishna is the source of the earth. And because Krishna is the source of earth, he says, that's why any amount of discussion, for example, how much time we spend on environmental, these environmentalists, they keep on trying to serve the environment. They're trying to do different things, carbon footprint, reducing carbon footprint, doing this. When I hear all these people say, you know what? Actually speaking, just become a devotee. Once you become a devotee, then automatically what happens? Hopefully, if you're actually becoming a devotee, not just wearing devotee dress, but actually at heart level becoming a devotee. I think Prabhu was giving class this morning. He was mentioning about actually at heart level, not this thing. So when you actually become a devotee at a heart level, not just at a mind level, not at the intellectual level, then what happens is we start becoming simple living and high thinking. That's the motto, right, of our movement. Simple living, I think. We start becoming simpler. We try to reduce our footprint on this planet. We try to reduce our footprint. So automatically you become an environmentalist. You don't have to do a separate endeavor for that. If you become a devotee, automatically everything about thing in devotional service is automatic. Everything these people keep on fighting for, health. Early to bed, early to rise makes you healthy, wealthy and wise. Devotees have to get up for Mangalati. They have to sleep early because of that. So things like that, and you will see that automatically, once you actually take out the practice of devotional service, simple living, high thinking becomes a natural phenomena in our lives. When it becomes natural and when we remain uncomplicated, then we become steady, or we become what is called dhira. We become dhira. When we become dhira, that means sober and steady. Then we can study. When we are steady, then we can study. We can study the nature of this. When we study, then we become Narottama. Narottama means the person who worships Krishna. So it's not enough only to be a dhira. You have to become a Narottama, a servant of Krishna. And that is something that is very important. So here he gives, now just to end up this, that is a sense, that is why I went through this thing, because here Jada Bharat is using the Vaisheshika philosophy to explain to Maharaj Raghugana that really speaking, at the end of the day, all this discussion you're having about this person being palanquin bearer, I being king and thing and all that, and next life you being king, you being my palanquin, all these discussions are okay. But at the end of the day, there's no truth to this real existence, because we are coming from dust and we are going back to dust. There's really no truth. It's only a formality that just to keep us some conversation going, we're having this discussion. But really speaking, there's no truth to it. And no amount of discussion about this subject matter will get us to Krishna. No amount of, we can keep discussing I'm not this body forever. But it still doesn't take us to Krishna. Just because you discuss I'm not this body doesn't mean it takes us to Krishna. To take us to Krishna, we need last week's. If so, I hand over you now to last week's class by Ajay Govinda Prabhu, right? Who gave it last week? His class, which is text 12, because we have gone back from text 12, we're going back to text 9, so you'll come back to text 12 in 3 days, I think. So you go to text 12, What Jadabhara does is, then after telling him you're not this body, you're just dust and all that, then he says, but no amount of discussion on this dust business will take you to Krishna, but the only thing that will take you to Krishna is the dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee. So he takes him there, right? So he takes, it's interesting how this is a very good lesson to learn for preachers. It's a very good lesson to learn for anybody who wants to influence anybody in this world, your families, or how to use a certain shastra for a certain thing. So now, having done justice to this verse, why does Jadabhara take this and use Vaisheshika philosophy to convince Maharaj Raghunatha? Is because Maharaj Raghunatha was very much in the bodily conscious life. To complete this, we have to also, I just want to go to the other schools also, because it finally comes to something very interesting. And I'll take a few minutes just to complete this thing. So as far as this verse is concerned, we now understand what Jadabhara is telling Maharaj Raghunatha. He's using the Vaisheshika philosophy, the atomic theory, to say everything comes from atom and everything ends up in atom. We are only atoms, we're a bunch of atoms, and that's it. Otherwise, there's no truth to our existence. But to understand that, it's easy to say that, but to understand that, we need more knowledge. So what happens is, in the school of philosophy, after Nyaya, Vaisheshika second, then after that is Sankhya by Kapila Muni. Now Sankhya is told by Kapila Muni to his mother Devahuti, who was already a liberated soul in a sense. She was already liberated. She had already understood the existence that this life is temporary. Because if you notice the lamentation of Devahuti in 3rd canto Bhagavatam, she laments saying that I had association with such a great devotee as Kadama Muni. I did not take advantage of it. I was just sitting and enjoying with him. I wish I had taken, I lament all the time I wasted. I feel that sometimes nowadays, you see, what happened is, even though I spent a lot of time with my Guru Maharaj, but there are times when he asked us to stay back, when he asked Anasya and me to stay back, he said, why didn't you stay a few more days? I want you to travel to this place. I want us to go and travel to this place. I was a young man like you people at one day. In those days, I was very, shall we say, I can't use the word proud. I was never proud of it, but I was very committed, let's say. I was very committed to preaching. So what happened is, every time my Guru Maharaj, there are times he would say, why didn't you stay back? Why do you want to go to US right away? Change your ticket for another day. I said, no, Maharaj, I have to go and do the preaching. I have to go and do the preaching. And then, now that he's taken Samadhi, now that he's not there, it's almost 10 years. It's 2010 he took Samadhi. Now we have to only listen to his Vani. We have no Vapu anymore for us. So now, I was thinking, man, I wish I'd spent more time and sat down with him and learned how to be a devotee. What was I preaching? I mean, I had half the knowledge I have now, and I have more knowledge now, and I feel I'm not a devotee. That time, with half knowledge, I was a great preacher. Life is so funny. I wish I'd spent more time. I wish I'd stayed back. What would 3 days difference make in my preaching? Nothing. 3 days would have not made any difference. But no, Maharaj, I have to go, Maharaj. So Maharaj, I'm leaving for the airport, Maharaj. Okay, it's okay, son. All the best. Take care. I'll pray for you. And now I feel, man, I wish I'd stayed some more. I wish I'd asked him more questions. I wish I'd asked him, Maharaj, how does this work, Maharaj? How are we supposed to see this, Maharaj? How are we supposed to do that? I wish I'd done more. Missed opportunity. Devahuti laments like that, and because she laments, Kapila Muni sits with her and says, okay, let me explain the movement of living entities. Let me explain the different kinds of hell that is there. Does anybody know there's one hell called Raurava hell? You know who it's meant for? I mean, this is a side note. I like to explain it to householders. It's usually when Kapila Muni is expressing the different kinds of hell, Anta Tamisha, and all this thing. One of the hells, the third hell, is called Raurava hell. It is a hell to which persons who are very dedicated in looking after their family goes to. Person who is very, that's how that facial expression. Someone who is dedicated to looking after their family goes to. If you look after your family very well, you go to Raurava hell. Smile, everybody, because you're on your way to Rauravale. So do you know why that hell is there? It's not you people, it's not us, it's not devotees, it's people who are attached to the family who, because what is the duty, what does the Shastra tell us about becoming mother, father? You all know that. What does it say? One should only become a mother, one should only become a father, one should only become a husband, one should only become a guru, or one should only become a king. That all these five are some kind of authority they have. They have authority over children, authority over wife, some authority. Any kind of authority figure one should only become if one is willing to take the responsibility of liberating the person, their dependence from the cycle of birth and death. So if you are willing to liberate your dependence from the cycle of birth and death, then take that responsibility. How many of us got married, except for liberation, we got married for all the other reasons? At least I did, I know. The first thing when we got married is we went to Kodaikanal, Ooty, Simla. We never went to Jagannath Puri, no Mayapur, no Vrindavan. There was nothing of that sort. It was only Ooty, Kodaikanal. I mean, there was no reason to do anything else other than that. I mean, I was clear what my life was. Unfortunately, I met the devotees, as Prabhu said, in New Zealand. After that, everything, I think. I'm still thinking I'll go to Kodaikanal sometime in this life again. But that's not happening. Every time we think of going into Kodaikanal, they invite us to give a Bhagavatam class. What do you do? I mean, no liberation from this, no liberation from Bhagavatam at all. So that is very interesting. You see, this is what happens. So it's not devotees. So devotees, what they do is they take the responsibility seriously because it attached to Krishna. Anything attached to Krishna is fine. Family, Griya Medi, they are talking only of Griya Medi, not Grihasthas. Griya Medis are people who are too encouraged with their sense gratification. The householder devotees are doing sacrifice. They are taking their dependence and saying, come on child, become a devotee. Come on husband, become a devotee. Come on wife, become a devotee. Helping each other to become devotees. So they are not on the Raurava road, by the way. That's interesting. But just as a note, if you're not doing that, you're on the Raurava road. So that is the next thing. So what happens is, what it says is that Kapila Muni speaks to devotee and he explains this. Now it's not enough to know that. Because why? All of you are trying. Last year I was here, I spoke just a week after Burijan Prabhu had spoken on the Japa retreat that happened here last year. I came 1 week later and I was thinking, man, how will I, with such a great soul speaking, and I have to speak after, how will I make justice there? Everybody is probably just coming out of a Japa retreat. But the interesting thing I found is a lot of people told me, I asked them, how did the Japa retreat go? They said the Japa retreat was very nice, but Prabhu, we don't even have time to do japa. Forget about quality of japa. I've got so much problem with my in-laws. My in-laws, I want tea every 4 hours. I have to make tea for them. I have to make for lunch and dinner. And at least the Matajis, they say there's no time for japa. Forget about japa quality. So, but to do japa, you need what is called discipline. You have to have time management. You have to try to do something like time management. So because of that, what happens is the fourth yoga system comes into play, the yoga by Patanjali. The concept of yoga is supposed to be creating discipline for self-realization. So now in the yoga system, what happens is you learn what is the difference between spirit and matter. When you do yoga, you start experiencing the Paramatma. So that is the first stage of transcendence that starts taking place. In the fifth stage, we come to Karma Mimamsa. This philosophy has been very well delineated in our movement. Who is the person who uses Karma Mimamsa philosophy? Krishna himself uses Karma Mimamsa philosophy. Where does he use it? When he's convincing his father to worship Govardhan, he uses Karma Mimamsa philosophy. What happens in Karma Mimamsa philosophy is up to Paramatma, you're still not coming into the worship mode. It's more self-realization. But in Karma Mimamsa philosophy, you start worshipping. You start learning to worship somebody else. You use somebody else as higher than you. That is why it is said, Karma Mimamsa philosophy is the closest to a householder for a fruitive worker. It is, in other words, you want the fruits of your labor. You want the fruits of your labor. And Karma Mimamsa philosophy is saying, to gain the fruits, you have to worship Govardhan. You have to worship Krishna. If you want an income, you want a job, worship Krishna. That's Karma Mimamsa. That is, you want some fruit from your worship. That's the fifth philosophy. And the last philosophy is Vedanta. That Vyasadeva keeps. So all these others are Gautama, Kannada, then Kapila, then Jaimini. All these people created these different philosophies, but Vyasadeva, the Vedanta. Now the interesting thing is, Jarabharat shows here for us, through his personal example, how the purpose of all these philosophies are supposed to eventually take us to Vedanta. It is to establish Vedanta as the comprehensive truth of all existence. So normally what happens is, if you understand the Vedanta, then any person, especially, I mean, in US also I see that, in India also I see that, there are so many, people will be, for example, very austere. Somebody say, I don't want to, nowadays there's a new movement. If you think Hare Krishna movement is the only movement, there's another movement called the minimalist movement. This minimalist movement is that how much you can stay without anything. You go off in the forest, stay in that thing, very simple living, but no high thinking, only simple living. So when you hear that story, I saw that article yesterday. I was reading this article about this minimalist movement, and I was thinking, man, what a waste of time. Because just because they're doing simple living, so much drama for simple living, devotees are anyway doing simple living, but they're also doing high thinking with it. So that's the thing. So what happens? Karma Mimamsa philosophy is the closest. But all these philosophies are supposed to bring. Philosophy will not take you back to Godhead. Like as Radhana Maharaj said it very well. He said, philosophy will not take you back to Godhead. What will take you back to Godhead? Devotional service. Devotional service is the one that will take you back to Godhead. So very often so really speaking, you don't need these philosophies, you might think. But sometimes what happens is we might be at different stages of life, and these philosophies might be needed to understand. Like in the case of this Raghugana, he needed to understand that you're coming from earth, you're going back to earth. And all of us are in different stages of life. So we might need different understandings to, for example, the younger people who are just starting their life, who are just getting married, who are just starting their life, the brahmacharis might need a different philosophy. That's why this morning it was very nice to see the brahmachari class. It's very nice to see a special class for brahmacharis because their problems are different. They need a special class for themselves because they have a different. The householders need a different class because it's a different problem that they're facing, different challenges they're facing. In the householder life also, you're facing different, when you're just starting your life, you're trying to build savings, you're trying to get some economic development, all that. So there's a different, you need to tailor a class where the young householders are able to say that, okay, how can I have economic development at the same time not lose my Krishna consciousness? You have to balance the two. How is that done? Is there any way to do it? So that help is needed for them. Someone who's in the older age group, almost getting the children settled, they need renunciation. They need this thing, aranyakas. They need to know time to let go now. Don't keep hanging on to the family forever. Time to let go. Time to let go some of your attachments. I'm cultivating a couple in Hyderabad, and when this lady, she comes to our Zoom classes, because when I give Zoom classes from US, and then we have some people from Hyderabad, some people from Mexico and all these places. So this lady from Hyderabad, her natural way to feel better whenever she was depressed was to go and buy saris, shopping. I'm sure a lot of you agree with that. It's a nice way to be undepressed. So she would go buy saris. So when I went and visited her in Hyderabad, I saw 5 cupboards full of saris. I said, Mataji, when did you wear that sari? She said, Prabhu, I don't know. I can't even remember. I think it was 20 years ago I wore that sari. She's got bundles of saris. So then, now, thanks to Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, she's donating the saris one by one. So she's donated 100 saris. So I said, how many more do you have left? She said, Prabhu, another. She didn't want to give me some more, Prabhu. I said, what do you mean some more? How many more cupboards of saris do you have to donate? So today, that same lady, when her sister tells her, oh, let's go shopping, she said, no, I think I'll chant Hare Krishna instead. It's better. So some detachment from your saris has to be there. Some detachment from your jewelry has to be there. Some detachment from, your scooter, motorcycles, everything should be there. There has to be detachment developed after some time. We can't always stay. Oh, I'm a grace, I'm a householder. No, you're not always a householder. You were a householder, now you have to develop some detachment. That is why nowadays, we have come to that stage of our life where Anasya and I, after 35 years of marriage, if she says, I'm going that side, I say, please, I'm going this side. You live in one room, I live in another room. We're very happy. There was a time when 5 minutes she did, and now many of you younger people will probably look at your phone. Man, he hasn't texted me yet. No WhatsApp message from him. He went to office 5 minutes ago and he's not texted me. I mean, he's gone to office. Please let him work. Please let him do his job. He's not gone to office to text you. Let him do his job. No, he's gone to office. He's not told me he's reached office yet. Why didn't he tell me that? Then there'll be a whole fight on that one. So there's a stage of that life also. I remember my Guru Maharaj once, I was traveling with him. I'll end with this thing, but it's always to end on a nice note. So my Guru Maharaj once, what happened is, I was traveling with him. We had a world ticket. So he called me, he was in Rajkot. And he called me from Rajkot and said, Purnendu, come to Rajkot, I need to travel. I said, Maharaj, where are you planning to travel? He said, all over the world. I said, what do you mean all over the world? I said, well, I want to go to London, then I want to go to America, then from there I want to go to Australia, and then I want to come back to India. I said, okay. So I came to India. I took 3 months off from my work. I think I took 3 months off, and I said, I'll come. So I came to, Rajkot. I said, okay, Maharaj, I'm here. Now what do we do? He said, booked a world ticket. I said, okay. I went to a travel agent. We booked a ticket. First going to Abu Dhabi, then London to US, and doing the tour of US, and then Australia, and then New Zealand, and back to India, Singapore and India. That was the trip. So then what happened is, I was trying to remember, what was the incident? I'm trying to remember what happened. Huh? Oh, yeah. So, Grihas Ashram, I was trying to remember why I'm bringing this thing. So then what happened is, Anasya was alone in Minneapolis. She was working for Target. And Target is a big retailer, second biggest retailer to Walmart. And we stay in Minneapolis. In Minneapolis, it gets very dark very quickly. Especially winter months. Winter months, it gets dark by 4 o'clock, and there's about 2 inches of snow and 4 inches of snow. And she has to take a bus to go from our place to downtown. It's a half an hour bus trip or something like that. And it goes through some bad areas. It doesn't go through some very good areas, the bus. So I was a little concerned about her. I said, man, she's alone. I hope she's okay. It's getting dark. Suppose a pipe breaks or something. She said, I don't know how to call a plumber and get it repaired. Only I do all that stuff. So anyway, I was thinking, I guess Maharaj could see that on my face, that I was serving him, but my mind was somewhere else. I guess, these transcendental personalities, I presume they can see a lot of things. At least that's what I presume. I hope they. So then what happened is, we traveled, and we had reached Los Angeles. So 2 months have gone, okay? We've gone to Middle East, then we went to London. From London, we went to Florida. From Florida, we went to Chicago. From Chicago, we came to California. So now we are in California. So now 2 months have gone. I've not seen my wife for 2 months. Thank God for that. Anyway, it was the most peaceful time. So anyway, so I've not seen her for 2 months. So Maharaj and I we're in Los Angeles at the temple there, and he said, Purnendu, have you talked to Anasya yet? I said, no, Maharaj. No, Maharaj, that's okay. I don't need to talk to her. Krishna's taking care of her, Maharaj. Krishna's taking care of her. So Maharaj said, my job is only to serve you, Maharaj. I've come to serve you, and this is the real purpose of my life, to serve you, to serve you. I mean, I don't want to talk to her unless Krishna is taking care of her. He looked at me, son. He said, you know what? You please take care of her also. Don't worry. Taking her care is also your duty. You please call her. I said, no, Maharaj. Then he said, son, I was also Romeo like you once upon a time. I know what it is to, be attached to a wife. Please, I was also attached to my wife very much. So don't worry about it. You please call her. I said, okay, Maharaj, if you say so. Very hesitantly I called. Then within 2 minutes I put out. He said, what happened, 2 minutes? I said, yes, Maharaj. And she's okay, she's fine. He said, call, man. I said, okay, I called again. He said, now give me the phone. Then he talked to her for half an hour. I said, man, Maharaj is talking to my wife for half an hour. I don't know how to talk to her for 5 minutes. And that's life. So just to make sure that Krishna is really a funny person, all said and done. So hopefully any questions? So this verse is basically what I was trying to say. All these philosophies come together to say only two things. One is that Vedanta is the most comprehensive philosophy that is there. And second thing is, within the philosophies there is a lot of debate or a lot of misunderstandings. And to correct those misunderstandings, the philosophies are used to Vedanta. The philosophy is used by the Vedantas. For example, I can say this last thing. I remember once His Holiness Romapada Maharaj and myself, we were sitting in Minneapolis and we were discussing this situation that was a big problem in all our temples. There was a little this thing, and whether we should make pizzas or whether we should offer pakoras to Krishna. I don't know if you have that problem here, but we used to have that problem in US. We have that problem that when the Telugus come and they do an offering, it's so spicy nobody else can eat it. All that Rayalaseema chilies is put into it, and that's like nobody else can eat it. Then the Westerners come and say, Prabhu, this thing is too spicy, Prabhu. What can I do? I said, go have yogurt, Mataji. What else can I do? I can't go and make another offering for you separately. So then we'll have two offerings. We'll have one for the Westerners and one for the Telugus, a separate offering. And if you make what you made for the Westerners, the Telugu says, Prabhu, there's no taste at all, Prabhu. Give me some pickle or give me something to eat. I can't digest this. There's no way I can digest this. This is not prasad, Prabhu. How can Krishna eat this? I said, the best part was, Romapada Maharaj was giving a class. He was giving a class, and I was standing in the back. And this was in a party room, in an apartment building party room. So he was giving a class, and he was right on the other end. And there was a lot of, it was like 80, 100 people must have been there. A lot of people were there. And at the back, we had set up that prasadam table where different devotees were bringing. So I was standing on the side, I was listening to Maharaj standing on the side. There was a devotee from, she was originally from Bosnia. She's Bosnia, Croatia, something like that. She was from Bosnia, Croatia, something. And so I told her, Mataji, you're in charge of prasadam today. You just take care of this thing. And because she was a pujari at the London temple, she used to be a pujari. So I said, you take care of prasadam. And when the devotees bring it, then you do the offering. I'll just take care of Maharaj. I think Maharaj's needs. She said, okay. So first, one person comes. They bring yogurt rice. The next devotee comes. They bring tamarind rice. The third devotee comes. They bring lemon rice. Now this lady got fed up. She said, Prabhu, how many rices are there? I said, Mataji, there are as many rices as there are devotees. You please don't worry. But Prabhu, how can I offer all? I said, you offer all of it. End of story. She said, Prabhu, we have to have only one rice, one dal, one sabji. How many rices? I said, Mataji, everything you please offer. She couldn't understand, I think, how you can have that many rices in South India. And she eats, when Anasya, she's from North India, she's from a Marwadi community. When she first got married and she came to my place, every day there would be a different sambar. And every day we would do rice. She said, is there any time we eat puris and chapatis? I said, no, because it's too difficult. Nobody can make the chapatis. So we don't eat it. We only when you go to restaurants, we eat chapatis. Otherwise, we never eat chapatis. She said, I think I should start cooking. I said, yeah, you better do that. Otherwise, all I'll get is rice and that. So please understand, this is the nature of human life. We can't just artificially become dust. We have to go through and try to work through all these things, and then we can become transcendental. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So any questions, any thoughts? Yes, sir. Prabhu.
Thank you for the
You want to?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the wonderful lecture, Prabhu. A lot of humor also makes sense, so it was really nectar to hear it. Prabhu, you were mentioning about the various different philosophies that are there and how just knowing the philosophies might not take us back to Godhead, but it'll
Will not.
will not
Yeah.
take us back to Godhead, but application of those philosophies at different stages of life would help us in understanding principles that are conducive for devotional service.
Correct.
And also help us in helping others as well.
Correct.
Now, when it comes to preaching to our parents who are not devotees and who are very much involved entangled in the material world in terms of not even ready to take up, should we actively try to, point out the things that you were pointing out regarding which is required for one of us, that, this body?
No. Answer no. Answer straight away no. First of all, don't try to preach to parents. That's number one. Don't try to preach to parents. Because parents, they have gone through their own lives and they have gone through their own this thing. The best preaching you can do to parents is serving them. That's the best preaching you can do, is serving them in some way. Because that's the experience we had for a number of years. My mother, she's a Vaishnavi in the sense. My mother is, we are from Sri Vaishnava community. So I was born in a Sri Vaishnava community. She knows her mother was a very strict Sri Vaishnavi in that sense. But even then, somewhere along the way, she got attached to Shri Sai Baba, and she worshipped Shri Sai Baba very strongly. And in the early days, in my gusto to make her a devotee, and to make my father a devotee, I used to speak very harshly. I used to do a lot of things. The only thing that happened was hurt them. They never became devotees. They never accepted what I was saying. It only hurt them and hurt me in the process. What happened eventually is that I started practicing devotional service for myself. I was less about preaching to them and more trying to be a devotee myself. And as I started becoming devotee, like for example, I'll give you an example. My mother, she wakes up at 6 o'clock in the morning. She wakes up at 5 in the morning. The first thing she comes is, what will you have for breakfast? That's the first thing. I'm thinking of chanting my rounds. I'm trying to finish my rounds. And the first thing she wants is, what is breakfast? I'll say, Amma, don't talk to me of breakfast till 8 o'clock. Let me finish chanting my rounds. I finished my Mangalarti. I want to chant my rounds and then I'll talk about breakfast. She said, no, I want to know what is. She'll go for 5 minutes to come back. What's for breakfast? I said, don't talk about breakfast. But today, the same mother is very thing. She says, you finish your rounds and then we'll talk about breakfast. So I think to parents, to siblings, especially brothers, sisters, parents, it's very difficult to preach to them because they know you from another lifetime. They know you as the same boy who used to enjoy eating. Say, suppose you come from a meat-eating family or something. You used to enjoy meat. So now why are you telling us not to eat meat? You used to eat it, garlic and onion. Now you're telling us, now what is this? I know my mother for a long time was against ISKCON because of that. For a long time. She said that ISKCON has brainwashed you and all that. I said, no ma, they have not brainwashed me. They only told me what I was born. I was born as Sri Vaishnava, but I was in ignorance. But ISKCON has actually given me a second birth. So they have told me what a Sri Vaishnava actually should be. So I can share it with you if you want. So don't try to preach to parents and don't try to preach to brothers and sisters unless they're willing to accept you as an authority. The best example that is given here is my Guru Maharaj would say, it's like this. In the case of Jada Bharat, he was only able to speak to King Raghugana when Raghugana fell at his feet and said, I'm ready to listen from you. if Jadapada had spoken prematurely, if he had spoken prematurely before Rahugana was thinking, it would have only been an argument. It would have not gone anywhere. So if you show that by becoming a devotee, you're a better person. You're a better person. You don't have anger anymore. You're more peaceful. You're willing to, you're willing to work with them. They'll say, "Oh, I want to do this. I want to do that." Okay, what do you want to do? I'll take you. If you're willing to do that, there's a better chance they will turn around and say, "What is it? That Krishna consciousness has really done benefit for you." I remember one devotee was serving Maharaj. He was from Kathmandu, Nepal. He's initiated by another person, another devotee in ISKCON. But then suddenly, because he was in Minneapolis, he had got in contact with Maharaj. So when Maharaj was leaving his body in Nasik in 2010, Maharaj asked for a couple of devotees to come and serve it. So I asked this devotee if he wanted to serve, and he came from Kathmandu to serve Maharaj. And by serving Maharaj, he would read Bhagavatam with him and all that. And when he went back, his parents actually noticed a difference. They said, "Wow, something has happened to you. What did you do there in Nasik? What did you do there?" They said, you're really matured in your behavior, you're matured in your outlook." So that's what they look for. They want to see these children. Actually, parents would always like to see their children being responsible citizens, responsible for their thing. If you can show that to them, that's more than enough preaching. They'll at least die remembering you. In which case, like Ajami, Vishnu Dutas are waiting for them. That's probably my answer, Prabhu. I hope it helps. This is the first time I'm getting questions from Prabhus. Normally the Matajis usually ask the questions. It's nice. Now somebody has to make sure the prasadam is ready so that we can finish the class. Because I don't know about you, but I have come to the Ekadasi here, so anyway. Yes, Prabhu.
That mic is
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. I can hear you.
So there is also one more philosophy, like atheistic Sankhya philosophy. So it became so popular, Prabhuji, that which part of
Which became popular?
atheistic.
Okay, atheistic philosophy. Okay.
So you talked about 6 theistic philosophies, Prabhuji. So this atheistic philosophy, how people misunderstand it as a theistic Sankhya philosophy, or how it became so popular, or in which part of scriptures it is mentioned?
Well, it became popular during Kali Yuga. What happened is, you see, in the early beginning stages of Kali Yuga, what happened is, out of the 6 philosophies, the only philosophy that remained was Karma Mimamsa philosophy. The other 5 philosophies, five philosophies, even Vedanta wasn't there. Other 5 philosophies, they almost died down. There were no followers in those philosophies, in those schools. They all died down. Karma Mimamsa philosophy is the only one that remained in the beginning of Kali Yuga. It was the only one that became very popular. And it became very popular because the people who were proposing Karma Mimamsa philosophy, they also started proposing meat eating. The Brahmins who were, they went into meat eating and all that, and they justified meat eating. And so people liked it. They justified meat eating and all that, and so the non-Brahmin communities found that this philosophy was very good to practice, because it was offering a goat to Durga and eating it, things like that. All this, the Karma Mimamsa philosophy started allowing meat eating, started promoting meat eating. But then what happened is, as we know, thanks to Shastra, as we know, Shankaracharya, Lord Buddha, he appeared. And he started giving, he said, forget about the Vedas, forget about this thing, don't touch the Vedas now. At least be a decent human being. At least don't create harm for other living entities. These are all your brothers and sisters, the cow, the dog, the everything, the goat or whatever, all are your brothers, chicken, everything your thing. So please don't do that. So what happened, fortunately, is the Karma Mimamsa philosophy was being promoting meat eating. Then the Gnostic philosophy, namely Buddhism, started promoting a higher moral. which means is non-violence. It started promoting non-violence, and that became very popular then. Then people started realizing, yes, I like non-violence better than violence. So people started taking to Buddhist philosophy, but it was not enough. What happened is the Buddhist philosophy was given patronage. For any philosophy to survive, you need patronage, royal patronage, and that was given by King Ashoka. When Ashoka gave patronage to Buddhism, then that became the predominant philosophy of the day. It became so popular in South Asia that then Shankaracharya had to come to recover the Hindu culture. He had to recover the Sanatana Dharma culture. Otherwise, so in the beginning of Kali Yuga is when the Gnostic philosophy started developing. And it was very popular because it had higher morals than the Karma Mimamsa philosophy practiced by the people.
So that means totally this atheistic Sankhya philosophy was propagated as part of Buddhism.
Yeah. And Jainism, both Buddhism and Jainism, they were the Gnostic philosophy. And what was the other one? Chakravakra, right? Huh? Charvaka, yeah. That the third one, Charvaka, yeah, the third one. Those three philosophies are all atheistic philosophies. The Gnostic.
Second question. So you also mentioned about that in the Naimisharanya they were doing sacrifices, like with the priests who know the perfect meter. So, but my question would be that are they not doing for the pleasure of Lord Vishnu? Because when that sage came.
Yeah, good.
So came to speak about Bhagavatam, when they asked
Sutta Goswami.
Sutta Goswami, when he came to speak about Bhagavatam and about in general, so they asked specifically questions about, he described about the appearance and disappearance of Lord Krishna, pastimes of Lord Krishna. So that means did they not do the sacrifices for the pleasure of Lord Vishnu, or they are doing in the sense of karma mimamsa, that not for Vishnu?
Well, all the sacrifices, all the sacrificial havans were always done for the pleasure of Vishnu. They're already done. But as I said, what happens is, for the sacrifices to be successful, the meter, the pronunciation, everything has to be perfect. The ingredients have to be pure. You have to have pure ingredients. Everything has to be of a proper standard. That's why even the sacrifice of Daksha, if you notice, if the things were not up to standard, you don't get the same effect. If you do animal sacrifice, and then you do a horse sacrifice, and then after that you're supposed to get benefit. The horse gets a new body, or the cow gets a new body. So that is the benefit of the sacrifice, that you get them a new body and you please Vishnu. So these people were not sure of the outcome. They were not sure of, because that's what they tell when Sutta Goswami comes. Sutta Goswami did not come to speak Bhagavatam, actually speaking originally. He just came there, and he, just like Sukadeva Goswami, happened to be there, and the others recognized Sukadeva Goswami and said, wow, he's the person who can answer your questions, Maharaj Parishit. You ask him, let us give him the Vyasasan, let him sit there. And because otherwise there was the Narada Muni, the Vyasadeva, all these people were sitting. But they said, no, he's the right person, give him the Vyasasan, let him sit and let him explain. And Parikshit Maharaj, you learn from him. So they were willing to do that. Same way what happens is Saunaka Rishi, the leader of the people who were there, says this on Namishan, and he actually, when Sutta Goswami came, he recognized that he was the person who was sitting in, when Sukadeva Goswami is speaking, let's hear from him. He has much better understanding. And another thing that happened is, if you notice the history of Romarashana, because Romarashana actually offended Balram, Balram killed Romarashana, but Romarashana had already been blessed with number of years by the sages of Naimisharanya. He had already been blessed by number of years. So then they asked Balram, now what do we do? So Balram said, if you want, I'll bring him back to life. I'll bring him back to life if you want. They said, no. That way, if you bring him back to life, then your authority will be taken away. We don't want your authority. So you have killed him, it's okay. So we have killed him because you're upset, we'll leave it at that. But then we need this also to be satisfied. How do we do that? Then Lord Balram says, his son Sutta Goswami will sit in his place and he will enlighten you. So it was blessings of Lord Balram and their desire to be enlightened. So they were doing it, but they were not sure they were going to get the result of it, of the sacrifice. Many times you don't get the result of that's why in this age we say yagyas are not recommended. Anything else, Prabhu? I mean, it's not right for me to be sitting and speaking with you in the audience. You must have some realization, some thoughts. Anybody, anything else? Yes, Mataji. I think the mic is not working, so.
So this is very basic question that I have. That initial stage of interaction between Rahuguna and Jadabharat. So here if we see, like from the superficial view, like Rahuguna was the king and Jadabharat is serving him. So Rahuguna as an authority, since his servant was not doing his work properly, he had the authority to chastise him, to get the work done. Of course, the means, the terms he used might have been little, on the higher
Harsh.
side. Harsh.
Okay.
But it was his duty. He had the authority on Jadabharat to get the work done properly. So in that way, what was the mistake of Rahuguna to actually get the work? As an authority, the power he is using. Because in our this one also daily life also in our services we see at home or in temple sometimes we may need to have use our authority and we may not be knowing the person's senior devotee, like we may have to sometimes use the wrong type of this one or little harsh on them to get the work done. So how do we understand this, the terms the terminology that I'm using is whether it's right, how do we?
Yeah, you're asking to rephrase the question. So she's saying that Rahuguna and Jadabharat in the beginning, Rahuguna was doing his duty as an authority, as a king, to discipline his, we won't use the word chastise, we'll use the word discipline his servitors. He was using his authority as a king, so what was wrong then in what he was doing? Right? That in a sense, that would be the question. First of all, this question is above my pay grade because I do chastise a lot of people. so like they say, one should not speak on something matter which they don't practice. So I don't practice what I'm going to speak now, but I will speak from Shastra what I'm speaking. So don't next time if I get angry with any of you, don't tell me, Prabhu, in the class you said that and now what is this here? Don't. Disclaimer. Okay, this is official disclaimer. Okay, so now the thing is this. Really speaking, what I have heard from authorities, namely, I've seen Srila Prabhupada's father, I believe, this is what I've heard. When he would have to say something to his son, he would quite often say, son, actually, you know what, I know that it's not, I should say as a father, I'm required to train you, I'm required to tell you something. So now I have to tell you, I believe the same thing happened with Bhaktivinoda Thakur also. He would tell his children first, he said, I'm sorry that I have to put down my foot here. It's not something I want to do, but I have to tell you that what you're doing is not right. So in other words, what happens is there is a methodology of expressing one's authority without being sarcastic or without being harsh or whatever. That's what I would say is a way that. So it's probably the way he uses authority, because Jadabharat mentions that actually in this thing. He says that you are giving these people, you're treating them harshly. They were not being paid; they were unpaid workers. So he's saying you're not even paying them, and you're doing all this, and then they are suffering, and you don't even know they're suffering, and then you have the audacity. Jadabharat tells King Rahuguna, you have the audacity to think that you're protecting your citizens. You're saying as a king, you should be a protector of citizens, but instead of that, you're treating your citizens so badly. What kind of a protector are you? Jadabharat chastises Rahuguna there. So there is a way to I think Prabhu you might be able to tell me, right? Among the brahmacharis and all that, if you have to explain your authority, there's a certain thing you do, right? What do you do when you have to?
It depends.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. Yeah. So the attempt has to be to the best of your ability to actually show the authority, because it's almost what you're saying, Mataji. It's almost like what happened between Narada Muni and Valmiki. Is it Valmiki? Yeah. What happened is when Valmiki became a follower of Narada Muni, disciple, if you want to say, and he became so humble that everybody started treating him very badly. Everybody started treating him very badly. So then Narada Muni comes and says, "What's happening here? Everybody is saying." He said, "Well, you told me not to, raise my hood." And then he said, "No. See, what I told you is like a cobra. Just raise your hood. That's all. Don't bite. Don't do anything. Just raise your hood, and that people will understand that you're not a person to be walked over." So there are ways to display authority where you're not a doormat. I mean, an authority should not be a doormat. An authority has to be an authority. Otherwise, the Varnashram system will go to total. I mean, Krishna will say there's total disturbance thanks to Purnendu Prabhu's this thing. Everybody is now not anymore. No, there are no authorities anymore, and the whole center will go in a different. It doesn't work like that. So we have to. So his mistake was the way he displayed his authority. I hope that helps. 11:40. Is it prasadam time? When I first joined the temple in 1991, man, I can't believe it's almost more than 30 years old. I'm an old man now. Okay, I still feel very young. That's a problem. Okay. Anyway, that's a different question altogether. Anyway, the thing is, when we first joined the temple, and when I was living in a temple in New Zealand, we had two mantras for us. One was what is called the wake up mantra. One was called the sleeping mantra. You know what the sleeping mantra is? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. You know why? The minute that mantra started means Bhagavatam class is starting, time to sleep. Because what will the speaker say? Krishna is the Supreme Personality. You got it. Your job is to serve. Human life is meant to serve Krishna. I don't care to serve Krishna, but he'll keep on saying that. Even if I don't care to, he'll keep on. Every day I have to keep hearing that. I have no choice. I'm living in the temple, so I have no choice. I have to keep hearing Krishna as the Supreme Personality. Got it. You have to serve Krishna. And you have to not only serve Krishna, you have to actually, the real supreme service is service of a devotee of a devotee of a devotee. Man, I'm a devotee of a devotee, so why didn't you serve me? I joined 2 weeks ago. I'm the newest devotee. Serve me. I'm the lowest of the thing. But you're telling me, serve devotee. I'm the lowest. So serve me. Why not? So they don't do that. They say devotee, and then they say, Prabhu, serve me. It doesn't work like that. I said, okay, this is not working. So then I said, okay. So Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya is the mantra for sleeping. Because for 40 minutes it'll go on, and that time you can take, because we sleep late, get up for Mangalarti, then you have to do our chanting, and then you have to go on books, you have to do this, do that. You have no time, so you're so tired. That's the correct time. So when especially Bhagavatam is a good sleep, you don't need sleeping tablets. Actually, most people, I don't know why they take sleeping tablets. All they have to do is play Bhagavatam, they'll go off to sleep in 3 minutes, for sure. If they don't go off to sleep in 2 minutes, they must be pure devotees. So that's one thing. The second mantra was the mantra for waking up. Sharira Vidajal, join in the cycle. That mantra, prasadam time. That time we would all wake up. We would know, okay, time to go and have prasadam. So maybe we should chant Sharira Vidajal so that others can wake up. Anyway, thank you everybody for your wonderful being so patient, and thank you Prabhu for letting me be here. Vancha kalpatubhyascha kripa sindhudevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Jara Bharat ki jai. You will continue his pastime for some more time, I guess. Jai. Hare Krishna.